My guest today, I'm really excited to welcome. But before we dive into this exciting interview, before we dive into this exciting interview, as I'm pulling up, here we go. Before we dive into today's exciting interview, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Books to Life Marketing, the team making it all possible. They specialize in helping authors bring their stories to life through expert publishing, marketing, and media exposure. They're behind some of the most inspiring author journeys we've seen. If you're an author looking to elevate your book, let Books to Life Marketing is the partner you want in your corner. And our guest today is Eric Cabrera, author of Rainy Faces. How are you, Eric? And thanks for stopping by today.
Oh, I'm fine. And how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. So let's just go ahead and dive into this and tell us about your book. First of all, what is the genre of your book?
I would say it's mystery, drama, and love story.
And how did it all develop and come into place? Explain why you decided to write this book.
I can't say that anything in particular inspired me to do it, but it's a story of a motorcycle club that wants to do a motorcycle ride. The distance is quite long from Boston all the way to Daytona Beach in Florida, whereas you probably know they do car racing and motorcycle races. There's a little bit of a mystery in the story in the sense that I guess the real meets the unreal. When there's a particular club, it's a girls' club from New Jersey, where I live, that joins the ride. The ride is created by a rider himself, Ron Mason, who's very disciplined and strict in things like that. As you probably know the story behind motorcycles, so I won't repeat it. But motorcycles are not really all about drugs and fights and crime. Motorcycles do a lot of charity. They do rides for hospitals for children. They do a lot of beneficiary. They do missions that serve a good cause, which is they don't get a lot of publicity for that, but they do get bad publicity, which is a shame. But anyway, that's the vehicle that I use to go forward with the story. And in the story, there's a little bit of mystery, a little bit of horror, I would say. But it's not your everyday horror story. It's a club that has some capabilities that other human beings don't have. They become destructive because their quest is to always gain more members. It's like when you have a bad gang and they're doing bad things to people. They're committing crimes and things like that and threats just so they can get new members. The club is not quite like that, but they do have a need. They have one need, and that is they need to feed. And what do they feed? They fit with human bodies. So that's a little bit of a problem when you have a big ride of 120 riders.
All right. So yeah, for sure. A motorcycle. Do you like riding motorcycles?
I have never driven a motorcycle, but I love them. I think they're great. I have brothers that are riders. And what attracts me to this is I've ridden in a motorcycle as a passenger, but what people love about them is the freedom aspect of it. You sit there and you drive and the wind hits you in the face and you feel like $1 million. Basically, as I said, that's the carriage that takes the story to a conflict. It's a conflict between good against evil. And there's a dark secret with the Lost Souls. That's the name of the club that joins Mason's ride in New Jersey. And it just happens that there's a young girl that they're trying to recruit. And so she is not quite like them at the beginning of the story, but she starts to fall for the hunger that develops among them when they need food. The girl is new and she's a good rider, and she meets another rider who's a mechanic, and he happens to be a man of God. He's religious, and he's on the ride for the purpose of the reason why he recruited. His name is Ken, and the reason why he was recruited is because he's very good as a mechanic, and he builds up motorcycles, motorcycle engines, and he can everything about motorcycles. He and Robin, that's her name, do start a relationship, but the club doesn't want her to hang around with Ken. Ken Cabrera is the man of the hour, I would say. They try to eliminate him. They try to disrupt the club. And the story takes us through the various states that they go through from New Jersey, which is where they pick up most of the writers, but some of them come from up north also. And you go state by state and go to from New Jersey, Delaware, and then Delaware turns into Maryland, and from Maryland down south, Virginia, the Carolinas, and eventually Georgia and Florida.
Yeah.
And during the trip, strange things happen, but I don't want to just give away the story. But
No, we shouldn't do that. Let's go to the background of Robin McManus. Tell us about that.
Robin McManus is a beautiful girl who is, she was born, her father had a relationship with the leader of the Lost Souls, Margaret McCarter. And McCarter is the powerful member of the club. So Robin is born, Margaret McCarter is her mother. She doesn't know it. The story is that years before when she was born, the man, her father was involved in the Lost Souls, and he was engaged to be married to a woman whose name is Helen McManus. And she interrupted the situation that developed when Margaret and her father got together, and she steals the baby. She takes the baby for the reason that she was appalled at what she saw when she came to see him and found the baby amidst one of their meals, and they eat people. And she kidnapped. Basically, that's what happened. She kidnapped Robin and raised her as her daughter. Robin doesn't know that her mother is Margaret. Eventually, when they become violent in Florida and try to put an end to the ride, disrupt it as much as they can, this is when Robin's mother, the one who raised her, appears in the scene, and they have an encounter. And during the encounter, justice is done. Let's say Helen is able to get Robin back, and the three of them, Helen, Robin, and Ken, return to New Jersey. They live in Cape May, which is at the tip of the bottom of the state as you travel to Pennsylvania and Delaware, a town called Cape May, and that's where they live. That's where the story ends. Margaret is eliminated by Helen. So that's basically the thrust of the story. There are deeper themes involved.
Yeah, we don't want to give those away. So there's a confrontation of good versus evil. Eric, talk about that to us.
Yeah, as horror stories, there's always a way to eliminate a vampire, and I don't call them vampires in the story because they're not quite like that. And Helen McManus, who is again the lady who raised Robin, she knows the secret, and they have an encounter in Central Florida, and that's where she comes to save her daughter and confronts Margaret, and she kills her. That is the pit of the story. That's really it. That's where everything changes. Is once she's gone, the people can go back to normal, and the writers come back in a group. They lost a few members in the ordeal, but they're still a motorcycle club, and they did what they wanted to go, what they wanted to achieve. And it's just more than traveling to Florida to participate in the races. It changed, its purpose changed as these things happen. But now they overcome evil and they return to their bases. That's pretty much how the story develops and how it ends. I guess the moral of the story is that when we unite, when we stick together, we can achieve things that are non-achievable to the naked eye.
And it's interesting. Let's dive deeper into this. You love motorcycles. And one of the things, because you mentioned the book, and I want to get to know you more now. You mentioned motorcycles a lot, Eric. You mentioned specifically enough the power of them and vampires and specific things. Where do you think you pull a lot of your genre from in your writing?
Where did I pull it from? I think it's the adventure, as I described to you at the beginning. I think the reader will get a better understanding of what it is to ride a motorcycle. And like I said, it's not all about bad things such as drugs and other things that motorcycles are known for. They are definitely a very nice pastime in America. And I don't know that much about motorcycling in other countries, but I bet you that is nothing like what it is in America. If you ride a bike with a group, with a club, and in one of their runs for the benefit of those who are less fortunate than us, then you become aware of what it is about. It's a pleasure. It's actually a privilege to be on a motorcycle and ride it through the wind and experience that feeling of freedom. And freedom is what America is all about. Feeling of being free. It's a great experience to ride one.
It sounds like it for sure. And I guess, and you want the readers to see that. What genre of what writers do you like to pattern your writing after? Are there authors, their favorite authors of yours that you like to pattern in your writing?
I would say that I draw a lot of style from Ernest Hemingway. I've always admired his writing in books like For Whom the Bell Tolls and The Old Man and the Sea. I think those are stories that are compelling. With Ernest Hemingway, you can smell the can of sardines that the character is eating from. You can feel the movement as if you were there. I think he had a gift to make his writing real, to just more than just reading his story, but experiencing as if you were there. I would say, yeah, he is my favorite.
Interesting. And what about vampires? Where did that come with? Are you a horror fan as well?
No, not really. I was thinking that when I started the book that New Jersey, where I live, there are some areas in New Jersey that are very interesting. There's a mystique about them in certain parts of the state. Very historic. A lot of things happen here. The George Washington left New York, or fled New York rather, with his troops. He was in battle and he came to Central Jersey. This is where he camped out. The English were pursuing him. They wanted to destroy the American army at that point that was very weak. And he ended up in Morristown, New Jersey, where in those days, wars were fought in a different manner. During the winter, the armies would stall and settle down and wait for the spring to continue the fighting. So that's where he camped out in Morristown. That's where he passed that winter. It was critical to the revolution at that time because they lost many men who just withdrew. I'm going home. I'm not staying here. There are no guns. There's no money. There are no shoes, no uniforms. It was the darkest moment in the revolution. And I think there are many locations in the state where you can say, oh, Benjamin Franklin was here, or George Washington himself passed through here. Those things like that I've become to admire during my teenage years in the state, they still attract me today. Florida is a great state, but I think history lives here in this state.
Yes.
In New York.
Like the Jersey Devil, the Phantom, like the Loch Ness Monster's the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
In certain aspects. That would be one that adds that mystique that you're thinking with your vampires in this book is the Jersey Devil.
Yes. Is it true or is it?
Yeah. Do you believe that there is a Jersey Devil?
If you like this type of thing, I think you have to believe that there was such a thing.
And the mystique of New Jersey because of the history of New Jersey, right? New Jersey's an older state compared to some of the other states.
Yeah, it's one of the original colonies.
Exactly. And so have you written other books, Eric?
Yeah, I have many books. My books are mostly concentrated on love stories. I don't want to write about war. I don't want to write about unpleasant things. And I do well with love stories. I had a book that was just published called Fate Has Its Favorites. It's just, when you think of it, think through it, the basics of the story is all about love. And some of our readers that will label the book as well, it could be boring. I never find it boring. I try to make it a vivid story. It goes back to my admiration of Hemingway. Make the story live through the eyes of the reader. Make it experience.
So what is your background, Eric? You've written lots of books, or what else do you do?
I'm an attorney by trade since many years ago. I do immigration work and I do a lot of trials in immigration courts. And that's the core of my income, comes from doing work like that. I do other things once in a while, but that's what I do the most. I like having that feeling of this person needs me, or she really needs me, and let me do things right. And I can help somebody. I can change their lives. But yeah, that's what I do. I have a family. I have a daughter, and she is now she's a beautiful girl. and she's not a lawyer, but she has a little bit of my traits. She writes well, and she's a kind soul.
Awesome. All right, Eric, where's the best place we can purchase a book and learn more about you? Where can we go?
It's available in my website, which is cabrerabooks.com, and the publisher it's everywhere. It's Amazon, it's on Google. You can find it everywhere.
All right. We appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. You're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show. We'll be back in just a moment.